Welcome to the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. Almost 13 years strong. We've got 1 month until 13 years. I'm here with my buddy Len Hunsicker. I'm Jeff Warren. How you doing, buddy? How are things going?
I'm doing okay. Hopefully, everybody's having a good week out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're going to talk about the World Baseball Classic on this show, but I just want to say, like, right off the bat, dude, you talk about ringing in a baseball season.
Yeah.
Crap. I can't believe we got to wait.
Was,
we got to wait years to see it again.
yeah. It was an awesome tournament. I mean, some really good games. Some stuff that, I didn't see coming. I mean, I really thought it was going to be one of the U.S. or Japan or the Dominican.
Yeah.
So we had a surprise winner in my mind.
Absolutely. It was, we're going to get into it later, but it was very heartwarming. I will say that, got the feels going with regard to the World Baseball Classic, but we got a great show, folks. We're going to dive into a bunch of Eagles talk right off the bat. This team has made a number of signings in free agency, which we really haven't gotten into here on the podcast in much detail, but in terms of free agency, where the team is at right now, yes, plugging some holes. What is this upcoming NFL draft needing to look like for this team in terms of team building and where Howie Roseman wants to take this team, one of the younger teams in the NFL? And from there, we're going to get into some Phillies talk. That's how we're going to conclude the show. Len and I are going to talk about the World Baseball Classic in more detail. A tough ending for USA, but overall, it was an amazing sporting spectacle, an event. We want to talk about it in more detail. And with regard to the Phillies, we also want to talk about one Bryson Stott, second baseman for this Phillies team. He's having an exceptional spring training, and it's really good to see. Can that carry over into the regular season? And we're also going to talk about that with our guest, which I'll get to in a bit. Andrew Painter certainly having another really nice outing this past week. Aaron Nola's been pitching well. Phillies starting pitching might be pretty damn good this year. And then what we're throwing down on the table, we've got our good friend Destiny Lugardo from PhilliesNation.com. She's going to talk about this Phillies team as opening day is. We're only about a little over a week, Len.
Yeah, because it's starting in late March, which, I think it kind of, when you think of opening day, you think of April. And it's earlier and earlier every year.
I think it's March 26th, I think is opening day, right?
Yeah.
I'm forgetting.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's almost here. It's almost here. But folks, let's get into and talk about, and we'd love to get your thoughts as well. You can leave us a comment below if you're watching on YouTube as we talk about the Eagles and Phillies. We'd love to hear from you on YouTube if you're watching, and it's great to be in your ears if you're listening on an audio podcast platform as well. But the Eagles did make some moves during this offseason. What did we like? What did we not like? Just a quick recap of some of the free agent signings that the Eagles have brought in today as we are recording this here on March 18th, Wednesday evening. Andy Dalton, that's right. Quarterback Andy Dalton back up now to Jalen Hurts. Yes, Tanner McKee is still on the team. Pretty strong, I guess, quote, strong quarterback room, if that's how some folks are billing it. Nose tackle Jordan Davis was signed a contract extension. Tariq Woolen, cornerback Michael Carter II, tight end Johnny Munt, tight end Grant Calcaterra. I can't believe they're bringing him back. Who knows if he'll make the team after training camp. Punter Braden Mann, quite frankly, could have been an MVP on this team this past season, especially toward the latter part of the season. Cornerback Jonathan Jones, defensive end Arnold. Oh, I'm going to mess up his last name.
Yeah, you are.
Ebkike. Oh boy, I can't do it.
Just call him by his first name. It's going to be.
We're going to defensive end Arnold. That's who it is. They also got Hollywood Brown coming in at the wide receiver and Dallas Goedert signing with the team for a year. I can't, but I feel like I wanted to do the old Bill O'Reilly thing when he taps his thing. He goes, I can't with Arnold's name. But really, I think some of these free agent signings, they're not the biggest. It's not the biggest deal in the world, these signings, except for one, I think, or I'm sorry, two. Of course, bringing back Jordan Davis, that's huge. They're going to end up re-signing Jalen Carter at some point, and that's going to be a duo that's going to be an absolute beast of men rushing the quarterback and tackling running backs out of the backfield on opposing offenses. But the tight end position, Len, want to get your thoughts on this because Dallas Goedert, obviously, it's a year. I would imagine he's probably not going to be on the team after this contract is all said and done. This 1-year deal, this re-sign.
Yeah.
Grant Harris stinks. Johnny Munt is there to help in terms of the blocking. I think the Eagles are really going to need to concentrate on the tight end position come this upcoming draft. I think it's an area that we have been spoiled with over all these years, going back to Brent Selleck, for God's sake, Brent Selleck, and then we had Zach Ertz, and then Dallas Goedert for 9 seasons. We have been spoiled, I think, as Eagles fans when it comes to the position. You know, I think that area is an actual area of concern after this season. Of course, Dallas Goedert, after scoring 11 touchdowns last year, I think he's still got some stuff in the tank, but I don't know. That's my thoughts initially here. Anything with you sticking out with free agency so far with this team?
Well, just with regard to the tight end position, a couple things. I mean, I think whenever free agency happens, okay, the draft is coming up in late April, and you're always having thoughts of, once free agency starts and you see who you lose, who you gain, all that stuff, you try to start to, maybe read the tea leaves a little bit. And then so once they signed Goddard for a year, it's like, oh, maybe they kick the can down the road a year as far as drafting a tight end. Maybe they don't go with Sadiq in the first round if he's there available to them.
Yeah,
maybe they do. I don't know. Like like you said, you are not really sold on the tight end room past this year. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously Goddard's going to be good. Calcaterra, is a backup tight end.
It's a horrendous blocker.
Yeah,
I mean,
isn't that why they signed Munt? Isn't Munt like a good blocking tight end?
Yes, that's why I'm saying. I don't know if Grant Calcaterra is going to be on this team to start the season. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Just a callback to I guess a sound clip of the past. Can we call Munt? Can we call him goddamn Rich Munt? the Jeff Goldblum clip.
Yes. Damn Rich Munt. I kill Rich Munt.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I figured you would enjoy that.
Oh my God. Boy, what a callback that was.
Yeah, it's an old God. Jeff Goldblum clip, if you're not familiar. And the word he uses is not Munt, but it rhymes.
No, it's not. Yes. It's not a nice one.
No, it's not at all.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, with the tight ends, once they signed Goddard, I was like, okay, maybe they're not going to go after a tight end. But you make some good points in terms of the room is still thin post next year.
Yeah.
So maybe they do. But I mean, I thought they made a couple big signings. Obviously, Jordan Davis is the big one for me. Yeah. Goddard for another year is big for me.
Do you like
we always, in terms of I mean the player. He had a great rookie year, and then he kind of, I think came back to earth a little bit. But you are looking for another outside corner on the other side of, Quinion Mitchell. So this to me seems like it's their latest attempt to kind of fill that role, and then just have the corners, the way they want, and have DeJean, continuing to be in the slot.
Yeah.
So that to me, I think that if he plays up to the level he played at his rookie year, I think that could be a good signing. And then, Hollywood Brown, you lose Jahan Dotson. So Hollywood Brown comes in, he gives you, a deep threat. I'm not that, AJ Brown and Smith can't be deep threats, but that's kind of his game. So,
I'm so tired of the AJ Brown talk, dude. I'm so over it at this point. I really am.
What of trading?
Yes, just the whole thing. It's like this. It's like the radio stations down there just want it to happen. It's like they need it to happen, and they need the narrative to stay out there during this off season. And
it would be a huge story, which equates to discussion and argument and ratings. So of course they want it to happen, because that's strictly, to me, that's strictly a self-interest thing for those radio stations. That's why they want that to happen. The deeper we get into things, the more I'm starting to think it's not going to happen. I think he will be with the Eagles.
I hope so.
Yeah,
he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, he is. But yeah, so I don't know. The deeper we get into this, I'm like, I think he's going to be back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
I don't know, but I think Brown is still a good signing. Hopefully he'll be a little bit of an improvement over what Dotson gave him. And
Yeah.
they lost a few guys, Blankenship and the Kobe Dean, where it's just like, especially those first couple days of free agency, where it's like, oh, Jesus, everybody's leaving. They're not signing anybody, because those
Yeah.
first couple of days the Eagles were quiet. So it's like, guys, what's happening? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think they've rebounded a little bit from that, and we'll see what they do in the draft. I agree with you in terms of maybe they do go offensive line early, because that is something that you talk about, the future for tight ends. You have to have the future for the offensive line, because these guys, as great as they've been for as long as they've been great, they're getting a little bit, long in the tooth.
Yeah.
So you have to think about the future there.
You do. You absolutely do. And I think that's probably where they need to go, or from a defensive end standpoint, from a pass rusher standpoint too, because it's little weak.
Yeah, it definitely
in my
is.
opinion.
Yeah.
But yes, I think offensive line, you look at the depth. If any of these guys who are getting older go out, I mean, we know that Landon Dickerson's at a point where he's still getting medical procedures done during the course of this offseason. He is, I mean, is he truly ever going to be 100%? Not necessarily restructured his deal, take less money and less years on that deal. He's probably going to be retiring within the next couple to 3 years, perhaps. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe after next season, he's like, I just can't do this to my body anymore.
Yeah.
Cam Jurgens coming off an injury-riddled season as well with his back
Lane
problems.
Johnson. I mean,
Yeah.
As great as Lane has been, and he's he's definitely, if you do your all-time all Eagle team, I mean, he's certainly one of the offensive tackles on that team. But he's, I think, now at a point in his career where he's good for a minimum of missing 4 games a year. I think just due to the accumulation. So yeah, I mean, you have to start thinking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts on YouTube. Leave a comment below. Where do the Eagles really need to focus their attention when it comes to the NFL draft? And also, you can take a look back in our podcast feed and here on YouTube as well. This past week on our Table Talk interview show, I talked with Joe DeLeon from A to Z Sports, and we specifically dove into the upcoming NFL draft, some of the talent in there, with some teams in the NFL may be doing, what the Eagles may actually be doing at the tight end position as well. So go back in the feed, check out that great discussion with Joe DeLeon from A to Z Sports. And Len, with that being said, buddy, we're going to take a break here. When we get back, we're going to get into some baseball talk, because man, it's baseball season. I'm psyched.
Yeah, like we said, it's whether we realize it or not, it's pretty much here.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm not, even after that awesome tournament, I'm still kind of in like, oh, that's a couple weeks from now, and it's not.
It's not.
It's here.
Exactly. I think we're gonna have to do our Phillies season preview next week. I don't even know if you're going to be on the show for that.
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking to Destiny Lugardo in a little bit from PhilliesNation.com, but I think we're going to need to do our Phillies season preview. It kind of came up on us quick here. It really did.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely did. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like Kill Rich Months.
You're going to be saying that all night now.
All night long in my head. All right, take a swig, buddy. We're going to take a break, folks. We're going to be back with a bunch of Phillies talk coming your way. All right, we're back to dive into some Philadelphia Phillies talk and just baseball talk in general. Len and I were initially at the onset of the show talking about the World Baseball Classic, just some great baseball. It was a rough ending for USA, but man, when you saw the victory that Venezuela had and what it meant to the players on the field, I mean, you had oh God, what's the reliever's name? I'm forgetting it. I mean, he was basically had tears in his eyes before the last pitch of the game. And it was like, I love to see that in sports, the emotion coming out. Honestly, I get to see it a lot with my one daughter who's a gymnast, and not necessarily with her, but other gymnasts who do certain things and they're just working and killing their bodies.
Yeah.
And the emotion of what sports is, like, that's what we saw with the World Baseball Classic, man. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and I think with professional athletes, you can tend to get a little bit jaded with regard to that because of just, the salaries that they make. But I think once you get them in that national team stage where they're playing for their country, you do get a little bit more of that emotion than I think you would normally get.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't wait for the World Baseball Classic again. We're gonna have to wait a few more years here, but
Yeah.
it's gonna be great to see. Now let's get into some Phillies talk here because there is one gentleman in Bryson Stott, and dude, he's been killing it. He's been killing
Yeah.
it in spring training. And again, it's spring training, folks. You know, we say this all the time when it comes to the Eagles in training camp in August. You know, certain guys are doing this or that. Certain receivers are catching balls and they can't drop them and anything. And then the regular season comes and you're like, what the hell happened? Same thing happens in baseball. It happens with pitchers. It happens with outfielders. It happens with infielders. It happens in the batting box. But man, Bryson Stott has been on fire, Len. And I don't want to get my hopes up too much because he certainly had a disappointing season last year. I mean, he started the season horrendously last year. And I think we've all been waiting. It's like, okay, when is he going to take that next step? And like, I am so cautiously optimistic that this year could be the year. And we're going to get into it with Destiny as well. But I wanted to bring it up because he's one of those guys I think that could potentially change the course and direction of this team if there is a consistency to what he does in the batting box this season. I really do believe that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'll even expand that. Yeah, Stott is off to an extremely hot start in spring training, as is Alec Bohm. Both of those guys,
Yeah,
with an OPS over 1,000. Both have been hitting the ball really well. Both are hitting well over 300. And I think maybe some of that is with a lot of the big guns, so to speak, away for the Phillies at the World Baseball Classic. These two guys are maybe kind of like more of stalwarts in the order in those high production spots in the lineup now.
yeah,
Since a lot of the other guys are gone, we're gone for the World Baseball Classic. It's kind of given them a chance to shine, and I hopefully that's something that they can continue to do because I really do think with regard to this team and with regard to the offense and just with regard to the way we all felt, after a pretty, quiet off season, I think we could say,
yeah,
if this offense is really going to take a jump, it's going to have to be on the backs of guys like Stott and like Bohm, who were waiting for these guys to make a leap to,
yeah.
okay, this is who you guys have been the past couple of years and it's okay. But, if we're going to be an elite offense, it's got to go up a level. And if those guys can continue that really changes the outlook in my mind for what the Phillies can achieve this year.
Yeah, I think with Alec Bohm, I mean, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I kind of think we're seeing his ceiling. I kind of think we're just seeing him for what type of baseball player he is. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a negative thing because the guy has grown over the years and he's homegrown talent too, coming through the farm system. You know, that's like that's what we have wanted for so long. And that's what we have with Alec Bohm. Again, like not the greatest power guy in the world, he enjoys playing small ball, finding those gaps. But I think with Bryson Stott, though, I don't know. I still think there's something in there because we're seeing it right now in spring training. We're seeing it like it's there. He just needs to remain consistent with it. And that's been the biggest issue for him.
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys are in their prime. Stott is 28 years old. Bohm is 29. So
Yeah.
this is pretty much, I think, the last years for them to be like, oh yeah, we had another level that we hadn't previously shown. We've grown as a player. I mean, I think for both of them, it's like if it doesn't happen this year, that's just who these guys are.
Yeah.
Is my opinion on both of those guys.
Yeah.
So I think this is a very, very, very important year for both of them. And and if they can continue what they're doing, like I said, I think this is going to be huge for the Phillies.
And I think Alec Bohm is going to be a free agent after this year too. So,
I believe he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's doubtful. I mean, this very well could be the last year that we see him in a Phillies uniform. And there are other players that I think we're looking forward to seeing too because of what they've been doing in spring training. And I mentioned the top of the show too. Andrew Painter had another really nice outing this past week, his second one of spring training. There is so much hope, not only with him, but I think with the entire starting pitching staff here, even given the fact that we don't have necessarily clarity on what's going to be happening with Zach Wheeler at this point. But I think that because it's 2026 and it's an even number year, Aaron Nola has been pitching incredibly well. He's back to Aaron Nola. You know, you to the Aaron Nola that we love and know so well. Like, you take a look, odd number of years that he just flounders. Even number of years, it's like that. He's just back. It's amazing.
And he was great in the World Baseball Classic for Italy. I mean, he was, you know, a couple of his starts I saw, and it was like this guy is different from the guy last year. The guy last year, I mean, he you know, and it's a small sample size, so you know, you have to kind of, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But I mean, this is the guy that that they spent all that money on the extension on. The guy that was pitching for Italy. So if he can continue to do that, he's going to have a big year. It's going to help the Phillies so much. I think they've gotten some stability with Lugardo, signing him to that long-term deal. Hopefully he can retain his health. Christopher Sanchez, for his first start in the World Baseball Classic, was a little bit rough, but you know, after that, he kind of locked it down and was the guy that we saw last year. So if you get those three guys, and then, you know, they can hold down the fort until Wheeler gets back, and then Painter, you know, he's the wild card here. What can he give you? And if he can, I'm trying not to have gigantic hopes for him this year because it is his rookie season.
Yes,
and he is a young pitcher.
Yes.
So, you know, I don't want to just hang my hopes on him being this young phenom that, you know, that is just killing it his rookie year. I think that's a lot to ask when you've got, and he's in a good spot because he's got all these other good pitchers around him that can pick up that slack if he's having a couple rough starts in a row.
And I feel like that the Andrew Painter bait has just been dangled out there for so long.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's been a name for a while
now.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're kind of, I don't care. I'll say it. I'm taking the bait that he is going to be pitching well to start the season based on what we're seeing in spring training, and I'll take that bait right now because, like, and we're going to get into this, Destiny, as well. I'm feeling positive about this team. I know there's this sense of, quote, running it back, you know, but there has been some turnover. And I think with that turnover that we've seen, whether it's Adolis Garcia, even, I'm not expecting the world from him, but the new faces that we're going to see, it's going to be an interesting season to see what they do and how they can contribute, and if they can be long-term contributors of this team as well. Like, I'm really excited for this season to start, man.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think the World Baseball Classic did quite a bit to help in that regard because you saw what Nola was doing.
Yeah.
You saw what Sanchez was doing. You know, Harper had a rough World Baseball Classic, but he did have that home run in the championship game.
Awesome.
So you're like, okay, maybe he's getting his timing down, and maybe that's the beginning of something. Maybe that's going to be a catalyst for him to have the year that we're all hoping he's going to have. So at that level, I think the World Baseball Classic was a great appetizer and a great reason to get people excited for the team. And I just want to mention one other guy really quick that, you know, he's in the organization, but he's not with the Phillies. Dante Nori is probably one of the Phillies' top 10 prospects, outfielder, and he played for Italy and in the World Baseball Classic, and he was one of their best hitters. So he is now firmly on my radar in terms of, okay, Crawford we hope is graduating to the major league team. You know about Aiden Miller. Okay, so who else is there? They have an infielder by the name of Arun Escobar, who people are high on. But Dante Nori, based on what the year he had last year, because he had a really good year last year, and then what he did in the World Baseball Classic, is a guy that I'm going to be keeping my eye on this year to see how he progresses as well, because he's a guy that when he was drafted, he kind of the shine on him as a prospect wasn't as high as other guys because he was one of those guys that was like old for his grade. And so, it's like, oh, okay, is he that much of a prospect because his developmental ramp maybe is shorter because he's older than these other guys that are getting drafted? But I mean, if he continues what he's doing, he's going to be another guy that might be knocking on the door in the outfield, maybe by the end of the season. So
Yeah.
that's just another guy I wanted to mention, just as somebody to kind of keep an eye out for if you're looking at the minors through the course of the season.
Yeah, and the question is too, and we'll have to get into it another point in time during the show or during the course of the show in these next few weeks. Is this Phillies minor league system and the farm system, is it becoming productive? Is it becoming a truly developmental system?
It would be really nice, and especially if both, Crawford and, eventually down the road, Nori hit.
Yeah.
If they both hit as prospects, because, you look at this Phillies team in general, and the outfield has been, let's face it, a weak spot on this team
for a long time,
for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you could say that, I think, ever since, Harper made the move from right field to first base, you could probably say that. So
yeah,
if they can produce two starters in the outfield, man, that would really help.
Well, that's a great way to end this first half of the show here. Len, buddy, it was great talking to you. Great talking Eagles. Yeah. Great talking Phillies with you, too. Do you have any final thoughts before we go to break here, before we get to Destiny?
Last week, in last week's game against Atlanta, the Philadelphia Union finally scored a goal.
Their second one of the season.
They are off to a rough start.
Yep.
I know we don't have them on the agenda, but I was watching, I was like, holy shit, they're going to get shut out again, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they had a late goal. So it was like, all right, we're on the board.
Folks, go back last week in the feed. I had our friend Josh Schuster from Philadelphia Soccer Now on, and we talked about the horrendous start to the Union. Josh was pretty funny in terms of that discussion. And at that point, Union only had one goal.
Now they have two.
Now they got two, folks.
Yeah.
Two, okay? I kill Rich Muntz. Gonna be doing it all night, folks. All right, buddy. I'm gonna let you go. Good seeing you. And folks, when we get back, we're gonna have Destiny Lugardo talking more Phillies. Stick with us. All right, we got to dive into some Philadelphia Phillies talk as this season is almost here. I cannot believe we've been waiting such a long time for baseball. We've been seeing some baseball during the World Baseball Classic, which we're going to talk about a little bit. I know Len and I dove into it a little bit before as well, but we've got our good friend from PhilliesNation.com. You can find her on the Twitter/X and also on TikTok at Destiny_Lugardo. We've got our good friend Destiny Lugardo. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Jeff. How are you?
Pretty good. I got I was able to pronounce your name correctly that time. Yeah, I came close. That was take two right there. So I love pulling the curtain back for the folks, here at the podcast show. But really, look, Len and I were talking about the World Baseball Classic a little bit before bringing you on, and my gosh, what an event. What an event. It's sad that we got to wait another 3 years before we see this type of baseball, but it was the type of baseball I think we all needed in order to get psyched and ready for this upcoming MLB season.
Yeah, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of spring training games, especially at this time of year where it's getting a little bit old. So to see that level of intensity at this time of year is incredible. To see the pride that a lot of these guys have for playing for their country, especially Venezuela. I mean, the pitcher at the end of the game, like he was tearing up before he even threw the final pitch.
Yeah.
And then seeing the guys on stage sing the national anthem and embrace each other, and it's just like it's eye-opening to see like what this tournament has grown into and what it means to these countries.
Yeah, absolutely does. And like I said, it's the World Baseball Classic was just a perfect segue into what this upcoming Major League Baseball season, may look like from a perspective of teams that surprise us. There's a lot of emotions. And I think when we look at this Phillies roster here, I don't know, Destiny, like there's this narrative going throughout this offseason. The organization is just, quote, running it back as though it's some sort of like real negative. And I'm not even sure you can call it like a total run back here at this point. We're going to be seeing Andrew Painter, Justin Crawford, Nick Castellanos is not here anymore. Adolis Garcia is a new face as well. I don't know. What are your thoughts about these negative connotations out there that the team is basically the same as what we saw last year? They're running it back. They can't get past certain playoff threshold. I'm not a big fan of that mentality, the Negadelphia type of mentality. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I understand a lot of the frustration with the running it back, and the Phillies are also frustrated with that narrative. I think
Yeah.
Rob Thompson has been asked about it a million times over the offseason,
Yes.
and his response is that, well, they're turning over 25% of the roster. They have a completely revamped bullpen. They have a couple new guys in the lineup, and they lost Ranger, but they believe in Andrew Painter and that he could, contribute this year. So but, the counter to what Rob and Dave Dombrowski say about running it back, I think a lot of the frustration has to do with the lineup being relatively the same year to year since 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good lineup,
That's the
but
thing. It's a good
yeah,
I think it's a good lineup.
yeah, and even, like, if you go back to last year from 2024 to 2025, there was even less change. I think there's a lot more change this year just because Nick Castellanos isn't on the team.
Yeah.
Actually, I believe he's second only to Kyle Schwarber in plate appearances from Phillies players since 2022. So it's going to be a big change not having Nick Castellanos in there. But I think if you look at it at the end of the day, they're a very good team. They're probably going to make the playoffs. They have a good chance of being a three-time division winner. Are they good enough to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs? Maybe.
Remains to be
I know
seen. Yeah.
remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are frustrated about the Phillies going out in the division series the last 2 years. Um, I think in 2024, they did not play well. I think in 2025, they faced one of the best teams they'll ever face in the playoffs in this franchise's history,
Yeah.
and they lost. I think if you talk to the Dodgers about the Phillies last year, I don't think they come away from that series thinking that they are a lot better than the Phillies. So I think that tells you a lot. So I just think right now people like running it back. I think we've all discussed that for weeks and
Ad
months
nauseum. Yeah.
ad nauseum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's time for people to watch the games and kind of see how the season evolves, and then maybe this conversation comes back again
Yeah.
in the playoffs when they lose again, or maybe they win the World Series, and then we're laughing at ourselves talking about running it back and how problematic that was. So you just have to
Yeah.
see how things play out.
I just want my favorite baseball team to be relevant and in the picture. That's what they are. They are
Yeah.
relevant, absolutely in the picture. We're talking about the fact that the opening day hasn't even started, and it's likely that this team may be getting to the playoffs. When we're talking about that in this division where you do have the New York Mets, you do have the Atlanta Braves that can surprise everybody every now and again. I know they've been going through a lot of injuries this offseason as well, but to have this relevance for this Phillies team, I think there's so much to be said about it. And I think at times the fan base gets a little too they're expecting certain things a little too much and not really understanding that it does take work to keep things as relevant as they have been for some time here. But let's dive into now some of the roster here on this Phillies team. And I'd love to start off this part of the discussion, Destiny, with regard to Bryce Harper, because I don't think people understand how long he's really been playing baseball in the majors. Like, what, 17 years at this point? And
He's an
I
old
say that
man.
exactly. I say that tongue in cheek, like 33 years old, I think, something along the. I
Yeah.
think so many folks still believe Bryce Harper is that like young pup in his like mid late 20s. And that's just not the case. And he's battled through a number of injuries over these past few seasons, but he has it, and it's very obvious because of the World Baseball Classic. It is very obvious he still has that fire within him. That is very apparent. It is very Philly as well. And there are those Bryce Harper naysayers out there that are honestly, they're really starting to piss me off in a lot of ways. But I'm a believer that he has several years left in the tank of being a really, really damn good baseball player. What are your thoughts on where Bryce Harper is at this point in his career and what he means to this Phillies organization?
Yeah. He's in the back half of that big 13-year contract right now, and I think he's lived up to every single expectation we've
Yes.
possibly had for him,
Yep.
with the exception of winning the World Series. I think the whole, is he elite, not elite discussion, there's some merit to it. I mean, he didn't have the best year, And at times it looked like there was something maybe a little bit off.
Yeah.
I know he was very aggressive, especially early in at bats. Um, it was just not the typical Bryce Harper that we expected, and maybe the expectations had been a little bit too high. But I think all of this is really a challenge for him. This is the first time where people are really doubting his skill set and his ability to be one of the best players in the league. So, you know, he's still a good player. He's a very good first baseman.
Yes.
I think too, you got to take a step back and I think a lot about Mookie Betts' season last year. If you look up his numbers, he was not good at all offensively. Um, and at this point in his career, he's a very good shortstop now. But like if you compare that to Bryce's numbers, like Bryce is a much better offensive player than Mookie Betts. So a lot of players they have these down years. I don't think it's time to say that he's uh, declining. I think that's kind of a derogatory word. And you
Just
kind of
looking at
saw,
batting average,
yeah,
really quick, just looking at batting average, I saw stats recently. His time on the Nationals, I think he was batting like 280 during those years with the Nationals. With the Phillies, it's like 279 or
yeah,
something. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like and yes, I know batting average isn't everything, and there's so many stats and analytics out there, but there's something to be said for that. The consistency of what he has been. I don't think he needs to be elite. I think he needs to be a damn good baseball player, and that's what we have.
yeah. I think some of that consistency too has been taken for granted. And
Yep.
the part that really I would be concerned about Bryce are the injuries piling up, and then
Good point. Yeah.
similar to what happened to Mike Trout, him just never, if those injuries continue to pile up and his performance continues to go down, just him kind of being a shell of what he once was. And I think that's more of a long term concern. But I do think, in 3 or 4 years from now, where he's getting a little bit up into his 30s, we're going to look on this year that he had last year and kind of laugh at ourselves and say, like, I would take that right now at a Bryce
Right.
Harper because the reality is with a lot of these guys that are on these really big contracts, like, I wouldn't say like their best years are behind him, but quickly there's going to come a time where it's like, wow, like they were a great player. They're still a good player, but they're not really where they were at their highest.
Yeah.
So, reality could quickly set in.
But I'm going to keep enjoying watching Bryce Harper out there. I'm just going to keep enjoying it. And I think Phillies Nation, we got to keep enjoying it as long as he is still have that
Yeah.
fire within him as well. But let's move on to this next player, which I think he's going to be fascinating to watch this season. I thought he was going to be fascinating to watch last season, and my co-hosts here on the show as well thought so too in 2025. And that's Bryson Stott. He has been doing some monster stuff in spring training. It's good to see, but as we mentioned before, it's spring training. Got to take it with a grain of salt. I'm wondering if the whole like all-star or potential all-star narrative with Stott is just like maybe a pipe dream at this point, or does he actually have a higher ceiling than what we've seen thus far during his MLB career here? What are your thoughts about where he is at during his career here in that regard?
Yeah. The first 4 months of last year, he was their worst hitter, and I think
Yes.
by a pretty wide margin. But he's a fantastic defender at second base. He steals a lot of bases. He has a lot of speed. He has a great feel for the strike zone. My overall take on Bryson Stott, watching him the last few years, he feels like a guy that has mastered every single aspect of his game besides the offensive part,
Right.
which is I think is very frustrating. Like you could tell the Phillies absolutely love Bryson Stott. They trust him. It's a big reason why he spent a good amount of time in the leadoff spot last year. And they kind of just want to see him put it together. And the last 2 months of last year was extremely encouraging. A big part of it was him kind of moving his hands, but I don't think it's necessarily all that. I think it's a matter of him thinking a little bit less about mechanics, knowing himself a little bit more, and feeling just a little bit more comfortable in the box. So I see why people dream about Bryson Stott being the all star, being the 310 hitter that competes for the batting title with his teammate Trey Turner.
Right.
Like all of that's in there. And, the last 2 months, his performance, I think you could dream a little bit more. you just have to see it over a full season because this guy, you know, first 4 years of his career, he hasn't been an above average major league hitter. But I think this is the year where I kind of want to believe that
I
this
know.
could be the best season
Yeah.
of his career,
Yeah.
but I just have to see it.
No, I
And you
felt
know
last
that
season. That's how I felt last season. I was
yeah,
like, "All right, it's gonna come together," but it didn't.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the spring training, like it's encouraging, but I remember one of the home runs he hit to the opposite field, and it's like great, but like the wind's not going to be blowing out that way in
Right.
any of the major league ballparks.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he has all the tools, like I said, the plate discipline and the feel for the strike zone, the great defense and the stolen bases, they all give him a solid floor, but I think he's starting to understand what makes him a great hitter. If he could lean into a little bit more of that pull side power, make a little bit more contact, and be a little bit less predictable at the plate because he's a guy that's very passive early and
Yeah.
then might be a little bit aggressive later. So if he can figure all that stuff out, like I think he could be an all-star. I think he could be one of the best second basemen in baseball. I think he could be that valuable player that the Phillies have been dreaming about for years.
All right. Again, folks, Destiny Lugardo from PhilliesNation.com at Destiny_Lugardo over on the Twitter/X and TikTok. We are going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about more talent on this Phillies team. Stick with us. All right, we are back with Destiny Lugardo, and to dive into this Phillies team more, next gentleman I'd like to get your thoughts on is Alec Bohm, another guy who people want to see more from in various ways. And I'm not sure that we'll see that much more of a higher ceiling from Alec Bohm here in the future, but I love him as a player, Destiny. I really do. We've seen him grow over the years. We've seen his defense improve. Like, seriously, when he was first playing third base, my gosh, defense horrendous, but he has grown and developed as a Major League Baseball player. And I think there's something to be said for that. So how do you assess where Alec Bohm is during this point in his career and what he may be giving this team down the road?
Yeah, it's funny. We just talked about Stott and kind of seeing that there's a little bit more in the tank with him as far as his offensive game goes.
Yeah.
I feel like with Alec Bohm, like I know who he is, and I think he knows who he is.
Yeah.
Um, we also know that he's capable of a lot more power than he is. Like, I just see some of the swings in spring training, and I know, like we said, it's spring training, but there's real power in there. But I think he sees himself as a guy that focuses more on the gaps, focuses more on making contact. Really, like, I feel like every spring we talk about, like, is there more power in the bat
Yeah.
for Alec Bohm, but I don't think he wants to sacrifice that contact for a little bit more swing and miss and more power,
Yeah.
which, that's kind of who he is and who he's comfortable being. I think he could be a valuable player. I think of, like, the Nick Castellanos before he came to Philly, like, the guy that, you know, led the league in doubles, like, Alec Bohm could be that kind of hitter.
Yeah.
A lot of the frustration around Alec Bohm is more on the fact that the Phillies have had to rely on him as a cleanup hitter, and they haven't really found a great answer. I think Bohm is probably more of a number 6 hitter, but
Right. Right.
he does have a great opportunity this year to set him up in a platform season. I think that could be really motivating for guys, and you mentioned the defense. It's really incredible to for him to be a guy that you don't have to worry about just because it was so bad at the beginning of his career, and
And
then
we
he's
were
turned
worried.
into
Like,
Yeah,
seriously, like 4 years ago, it's like, my
yeah.
gosh, this guy stinks.
He's had, like, an incredible
Yeah.
it'll be 6 years because I don't really see a world where the Phillies bring him back in free agency.
Yeah.
Um, but, like, to look back, like, 2020, I know was a very, very short sample size, but he was one of the hottest hitters in the league. He finished top 3 in Rookie of the Year, got sent down in 2021. He lost playing time to Ronald Torreyes of all
That's
people.
right. Yeah.
And then 2022,
Yep.
I hate this place. And
Yes.
then just kind of after that, like developing into a steady major league hitter, like kudos to him. Like it really could have gone downhill at one point. And I'm sure like people are always like, oh, like, he was the number 3 pick, like, why is he not, like, a superstar? But
Yeah.
sometimes that just doesn't happen, so, um, Alec Bohm does have a chance to make a lot of money in free agency next year if he does have a good year, so I think that'll be motivating for him especially.
Absolutely, and you love to see players coming out of the farm system, in some way, shape, or form with some level of productivity and what they're able to give this team. I think we've been seeing more and more of that as of late. And it's certainly a discussion for another time. But as we're moving along, I'm really glad that JT Realmuto is back on this team. The catcher position is one area of this team I had some real skepticism about in terms of whether or not JT was going to be re-signed or not. I think the majority of Phillies Nation was thinking the same thing during the offseason and before he re-signed. This team has had a really damn good catcher for these past few years in him, and we've talked about it a number of times that you've been on, Destiny. He's kind of like the general out there, reminds me at times of Carlos Ruiz in a way. I've said that a number of times on this show, but I'd like to get your thoughts on where JT Realmuto is at in his career, having just re-signed, and what he actually means to the team overall. Because yes, we know that he is also kind of like Bryce Harper on a bit of a downslide, a bit, but man, he's still a damn good baseball player. What are your thoughts here on what he means to the team and where he's at in his career here?
Yeah, just looking back at the years with JT, it's incredible the amount of consistency, not just at the plate, but, behind the plate. You mentioned like kind of him being on a down slide. Like he's not going to be the same offensive player he was in 2019, even 2022,
Yeah,
the big second half he had that made him an MVP candidate. I think the Phillies know what he is at the plate and, judging by the contract, 3 years is probably I don't know, I wouldn't have gone 3 years, but I think,
they probably
uh
wanted to go two. They
yeah, they
probably
probably wanted
did,
to go 2, but
but
they
they
needed
saw the
to.
catcher position situation. They're
Yeah,
like, okay, we got to give him
yeah.
three.
But really, like, JT's value and it's really hard for us on the outside to really realize what that value is. The value is to
Yeah,
the pitching staff and, the amount of preparation that he does, the way he calls games, the way pitchers feel very comfortable throwing to him, and, we talk a lot about guys in the lineup and, the frustrations and,
yeah.
not getting over the hump, but really this team is built on pitching, specifically starting pitching. And if there's a belief that JT is a huge difference maker, I think bringing him back is you got to pay that price,
Yeah.
uh, So yeah, I think the Phillies are in a pretty good spot with JT coming back. Um, they know that he's not going to be the offensive player that he was in the past, so I would expect that he's hitting a little bit lower in the lineup this year. Um, but I do think he has a little bit more in the tank. I looked a lot last year at his splits. He had like a 600 OPS against left-handed pitching, which is kind of unheard of for him, and I don't think that'll happen again.
Yeah.
So naturally, I think the offensive numbers will go up a little bit this year, but I think we all kind of know who JT is at this point, and some of that value I think will be more apparent this year with the ABS challenge system. So yeah, the Phillies have their catcher back, and I think it's a good thing.
All right. I think it's a good thing as well. So to close us out here, Destiny, and I know it's kind of a general type of question, but it's something fun to think about. I think, even before opening day arrives. I'm wondering which player do you think could be a big surprise from a positive standpoint this coming season on this Phillies team? Of course, we can always dive down the negative hole. Oh, it's a surprise that Trey Turner is batting 151, or it's a surprise that that Zach Wheeler's got an ERA of 8.4 or something like that if when he returns. But from a positive standpoint, I'm wondering, like, what do you think could be a big surprise this year in terms of us watching this Phillies team?
I think a lot of people looked at this year and didn't really consider the possibility of Aaron Nola having a great season.
Yeah.
And I
But
think a
it's an
lot of
even
people.
number year. It's an even number
Yes.
year. He just freaking is fantastic in even number years. Odd number year sucks.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing.
Yes.
I was looking at it, his, baseball reference page.
Yeah.
Every even year since 2018, Aaron Nola has received Cy Young award votes. I can't
It's
really explain it,
incredible. Yes.
but, I mean, if you look at the World Baseball Classic, I was really impressed by the velocity I saw, the crispness of his pitches, uh,
Yeah.
his curveball, I mean, some of the nastiest curveballs I've seen him throw in his entire career, it looks like
Yep.
it's got a little bit more of horizontal action. He's
Yep.
never thrown a slider or a sweeper in his career, and I wonder if he was thinking about it a little bit, and maybe that's kind of influencing the way his curveball moves a little bit. But you have to like what you see so far out of Aaron Nola. I know, covering him the last few years, like, he takes a lot of pride in being that guy that could make 32 starts and throw 200 innings, so for him to miss as much time as he did last year, it eats at him, so, he's coming into this year very motivated, wanting to prove that he's still that guy that the Phillies can rely on, and if he is, like, I think that that makes a huge difference. It's
Yeah.
crazy to think, like, how good the Phillies were last year, and they lost Aaron Nola for what 4 months, and then Zach Wheeler for the last month and a half in the postseason. Um, just kind of speaks to how good that the
Yeah.
rotation is.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like Aaron Nola, even your Aaron Nola could make a huge difference for this team.
Absolutely. Boy, great discussion here. I can't wait for baseball to start. I mean, we've seen the World Baseball Classic. I mean, the Major League Baseball season. It's right around the corner here. And folks, you got to head on over to philliesnation.com. If you have not already, make it a consistent website visit on a daily basis. Destiny and the team over there, they got a lot of great content that they're putting up, a lot of great articles. Destiny, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Always great to talk to you. And I hope that we're able to talk at some point down the road about this team. Let's get into some more baseball down the road. I'd love to have you back on, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. I love coming on.